Hello and welcome to another episode of Startup Hustle Middle East. Today we're here with our good friends Pallavi and Richard. I've known these guys for ages. Pallavi and Richard co-own Roar, which is one of Dubai's award-winning architectural and interior firms. So these guys have been doing some amazing stuff. Richard's written 2 books. He's also the host of Business Breakfast on 103.8. So he's had a lot of experience with a lot of businesses out here in Dubai. He gets to meet a lot of cool entrepreneurs on his show. So today we thought we'd have them over here to share the experience of building Roar. I know Pallavi since she was in college, so I've kind of seen that journey firsthand. But today I thought we'd share that with you guys on the show. So Pallavi, Richard, yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, good to be here.
All right. So if you guys could give us a little bit of background for our listeners, how you guys started in Dubai, what happened.
Yeah. So, Dubai is my home. I was born and raised here and, I have lived here for a very long time. I went to university, just down the road, American University of Sharjah. So for me, it was I always wanted to see if that theory of homegrown talent being able to compete with sort of the big international names was true. Mm-hmm. And Roar kind of started just as an experiment, right? I thought I'll do this in my free time. Let's see what comes out of it. Mm. And it just kind of snowballed into a real company. Like I was so grown up. I went from my guest room to an office in D3 now. So it happened very organically. It happened as a sort of experiment to see if, a small kind of Sharjah girl could really compete against the big names. And we've been doing that for the last 6 years.
That's very cool.
Great.
So, and Richard, what about you? Like, when did you end up coming to Dubai? How did this whole Dubai experience come about?
So, compared to you guys, I'm a newbie because I've only been here since 98.
Yeah.
30 years. There you go.
Exactly. I moved here and I was in my mid-20s. I came to work for Motivate Publishing, which publishes magazines like What's On, like Emirates Woman, and Gulf Business was the magazine I came to work for as a young business journalist. And that was cool. And I did my 2 years in Dubai. And like good expats back then, I left after 2 years and went back to London. But I'm a double boomerang because I came back 3 years later. And then Pallavi and I in 2007 moved to London together.
Right.
Where after we'd met. And we lived there for a couple of years, which was great and great fun. And we came back back end of 2008 and we've been here ever since.
So your third time back in
Third tour of duty. And I've been here 11 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how did Business Breakfast end up happening? Like, was it an extension of your job before?
Yeah, Business Breakfast. Well, like I said, I'm a business journalist. So by mid-2000s, I was working at Reuters and working for the Financial Times. Mm-hmm. And when you work for these big names, people think you know what you're talking about. You don't, obviously. You're just winging it like the rest of the world. But you have a certain credibility. So when Dubai Eye started, they wanted someone to come in just for 5 minutes in the morning and talk about business stories. Okay. And I did that. And very quickly they thought, hang on, we could build a show around this.
Oh, that's awesome.
Not because Richard Dean's so spectacularly good, but because business is lucrative in any media. Now, this was the mid-2000s, before the internet had really decimated advertising revenue for newspapers. But essentially, that was the thinking. And so they built an entire show called The Business Breakfast around this idea of having a business show. It wasn't my idea. I didn't build Business Breakfast. I was a launch presenter, but other people built the idea.
Okay.
Very cool.
What have you, would you say your conversations at Business Breakfast, people you've met through them, through the show, has that helped with your own business as well and informed certain decisions that you've made? How much of an influence has it had on your life? Because we've heard about the influences had on other people. So I'm just curious.
Well, the myth is that my role as presenting Business Breakfast feeds into what Pallavi does at Raw. And I should say that we own the business together, but Pallavi's the architect, the designer. Mm-hmm. We just happen to own it 50-50 because we're married and that's how we roll. But it's Pallavi's business. So let's state that from the outset. Okay. So I'm now a non-executive director of the company.
He just gets the heavy dividend check at the end of the year.
Keeping it real. How convenient. Hey, we should be 50-50 on a jar car. I want that dividend check.
For all intents and reasons, we are, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a joint bank account, so whatever. It doesn't make a difference. So, look, what do? I have referred business in the past. I meet a lot of people presenting Business Breakfast, which is useful. So that can feed through into business development. It's not a big role by any means.
But I think it's interesting because when I first launched the company, I said to Richard, look, I'm starting up this company. I want you on board. Help me with business development. And he's like, listen, you're not a proven brand yet, so I can't really advertise you. I can't talk about you.
Okay.
I'm not going to definitely get you on the radio show. And at the time I was like, wow, you have no faith in me. But I appreciated him doing that at the time, because I know now that the business is self-made. It had very little input from you, sort of in the three, we never roped into your Rolodex of business cards or what have you. And it just happened on the
But
basis
shouldn't
of
you
our work.
leverage what you've got? I mean, of course, there's merit in doing it on your own, and that's great. But I think, a lot of advice that we give to startups is, if you know someone in the media, use it. If you know someone who has contacts that can help you, use it, because we're living in a really competitive, oversaturated world. So why not leverage it? So.
Well, Pallavi's never appeared on Business Breakfast, and that's partly because Business Breakfast is part of Dubai Holding, which owns this tower block that we're sitting in now.
Right.
It's a huge organisation, and big organisations have big policies about conflicts of interest and governance, and that's absolutely as it should be. So I can't say, oh, right, we're doing a feature on design. I know this wonderful. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Because
And
I've signed all kinds of documents.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So yes, I would leverage my other contacts, but there's no kind of relationship there. There's no kind of, he's not getting a dividend check,
Yeah.
So I think fair play, I think.
Yeah. Great. So you started out of your guest room, and it was just you by yourself?
Yeah. And I remember sort of, like we talked about this, it's all about the hustle. It's all about winging it. I remember going into, my first project, in fact, happened to be a 300 key hotel.
Wow.
With one of the largest hotel operators in the world. And I remember going in and they were like, okay, great. We love your work. We love you. You can do this. And I was like, sure. They're like, you've got a massive team, right? I was like, sure. I'll hire them tomorrow, but, I got this.
Yeah.
So I think...
Yeah. So how did that happen, though? Like, how did it go? Like, how did you end up pitching for that in the first place?
I was working for a very large architectural company here, Gadge, Godwin Austin Johnson, and my specialty was hospitality design.
Okay.
And how did it come about? That's a really good question. It was my professor from university who had moved on and become the head of development at a Kuwaiti investment firm.
Okay.
And how serendipitous. I mean, you'd never expect your professor. But then, because I also teach at the American University of Sharjah, it's amazing how much work I also get from my students. So there's something to be said.
I think goodwill, definitely. Like, it comes around, I think, if you give back by teaching and things. And I also think that if you maintain relationships, your professor would have recommended you because you stayed top of mind.
I was an A-grade student, right? Probably that's why.
So do good in school.
Yeah, exactly. Note to self.
So that's something I wanted to touch on. Both of you guys have taught before, like teach in university and things like that. First of all, I know that it's fulfilling to teach, but do you think it really helps you establish yourself as a thought leader in your industry? Is that one of the reasons you do it, or is it just...
Well, I'll tell you what, it was one of the most surprising things I've ever done. I taught journalism for 2 years at Middlesex University in Dubai to 18-year-olds, so first year undergraduate level. And this was about 7-8 years ago. And I thought, I've been in this business for about 20 years now, working for some of the world's elite media organizations, Reuters, Economist, been through all the training programs. I know so much, they know nothing. This is going to be a doddle. And it is one of the hardest things I've ever done. A class of 50 or 60, preparing the lectures every week. Because it's one thing knowing how to do something, and you're the same, you with advertising, Mamta, and you with all things technology that you're related to. But to reduce it to first principles and teach it is very, very difficult. You've got to really think and deconstruct that subject and then rebuild it from the bottom up. So that was really, really hard, let alone marking 50 essays every week. So it was really, really hard. But what it does is it forces you, like I said, to understand your field, whatever that field is, from first principles. Because to teach something, you have to, whether it's how to build a car engine, you've got to really understand it to teach it. And that was useful. And that practice was useful in writing the book I've just written, Crowd Pleaser, the 100 greatest public speaking tips of all time, from Socrates to Steve Jobs.
Amazing.
By understanding communication from first principles really helps you, even though it's a very popular book with lots of cartoons, to be able to write a pop book about a subject with snappy 500-word summaries. You've actually got to really understand it. And I was doing my master's degree simultaneously, which gives you that depth of understanding. So yes, really, really useful. And your story with design is similar.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. So I went back to academia just because I love it. Like it's a huge part of my personality. And I thought, this is going to be great. You know, I do this every single day. I've studied at this university. How hard could it be? But it's interesting because design is such an intuitive process for me. And I'm sure you understand this. But as Richard said, breaking it down to the first principles, helping somebody else find their design voice and giving them the basics, you know, to kind of train themselves through it. So, but I still love it. You know, I can't do it full time anymore just because the practice is taking up so much of my time, along with our 2 young children. So I go back and I teach maybe once a semester, and I do it at different universities, like either in Dubai or Sharjah. But I love that connection. It's also a great kind of space to find fresh blood, you know?
Talent.
Yeah, definitely. Have you recruited a lot from the universities that you've taught at?
Yeah, 100%. Like, our studio is an all-girls studio. And a lot of my students have come through, done 2 years, done a year, moved on to their masters, or moved on to bigger practices from our firm.
That's
very cool.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, so recently, what happened is one of my, her cousin's friends, we were out for dinner. And she's an architect, by the way. I think she's just a graduate. And like something happened. I was looking at my phone. She's like, "Oh, do you know Pallavi?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh my God, you know Pallavi?" like from PDI. I was like, "Yeah." So by the way, her company's name was PDI before,
Pallavi Teen Interiors.
Pallavi Teen Interiors. And you changed it recently. So what's the story behind that?
That's a really good question. I think so. It was Pallavi Teen Interiors because, like I said, I started the business thinking I'm just going to freelance. You know, do one hotel in my spare time. How hard could this be? But then we started becoming like a magnet for really top talent. And I just thought it was a bit narcissist and a bit self-obsessed to have my name on the door.
Okay.
And that was one side of it. I wanted to celebrate all the other talent in the studio, and that's why Roar came about. You know, Richard came up with the name. And it has a
I
very
really like the name.
Yeah,
it's
cool.
a very good name. Yeah.
It's
I
got
like
a very
it.
fierce feline energy to it. So it kind of suits us really well. That was one reason. But also, you know, what I found is when it was my name on the door, I had to be at every single meeting. And that's still the case, I think. But I'm trying to wean the company of it being all about me. It's about the other designers in the studio.
Yeah.
So it's in the interest of scaling, basically.
100%.
Yeah. So you guys recently opened a studio in London as well, right?
Yeah.
So how challenging has it been being like a small and a small business? I think you just had a few designers, right? And now you're growing in Dubai. Now you're expanding to a different country.
Yeah.
Is that?
I saw on the website that you've worked with in 8 markets or something.
8 different countries.
8 different countries. So I can imagine that. I mean, 6 years old. 6 years is not that long. So it's been quite a journey. So what were the challenges in opening up new markets? And
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. Like, look, it's funny because in my first year of operation, we had a project in Tunisia, we had a project in Oman. Second year of operation, we had Uganda, we had Tanzania.
Okay.
So it was never on the agenda to be this big international portfolio practice.
It happened organically.
Just happened.
Okay.
And to go back to how did it happen? And it always comes back to kind of, we do a lot of kind of thought papers. We speak at a lot of conferences. And that's how it happened. You know, so people talk about, oh, we saw you there. We really liked what she was saying. Show us your portfolio.
Yeah.
So I'd never discount participating in these events and these conferences and giving back. I mean, we started it as a way of kind of just giving back and just doing some research that interested us.
Yeah.
But again, it kind of grew from there.
Okay.
So setting up in London, again, we had 2 projects there, 2 very high-end residential luxury homes.
Yeah.
And it was really hard to service it remotely. And we thought, listen, one of my old colleagues who'd been with Roar since its inception moved back to the UK. And I was like, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Why don't you run Roar London?
Yeah.
And so again, it's, you know, it just
It's happened organically. Okay.
Very cool. So part of what you were saying, I mean, we agree with that as well. And like, we think like, you know, this podcast is also a way of doing that. It's just like giving back a little bit, like helping people who are looking to start a business, like get a better idea of what it takes or what you could possibly do. And it helps us in return as well, because lots of people reach out to us because of the podcast, and they're like interested in knowing more about business. Maybe they look at us differently compared to if like they never heard of us before. So it definitely helps to put yourself out there. Yeah. So,
But there's also, yes, it does. But maybe now's a good time to talk about tall poppy syndrome.
what is that?
Tall poppy syndrome is this idea, we didn't invent it, that the tallest poppy in the field will often have its head chopped off because everyone can see it and it's there to be shot at.
Okay.
And the fact that you're now very high profile, 20,000 followers on Instagram, in a lot of mainstream media, is overwhelmingly a good thing, because you got to market your business, you got to be out there, and that's fine. But it does create some resentment, and it can backfire, can't it? I mean, for example, I don't know what the Rawi slum video,
Oh my God,
had a bit of
Lot
backlash on.
haters. It's,
I saw that.
and it's so interesting, right? So just going back to kind of what you said, when you put yourself out there, yes, like your cousin loves our work, loves that. But I get a lot of comments like, oh my God, you're overexposed. Every time I open a magazine, it's like spam. And people actually come up and tell me this stuff. And I'm like, hang on, guys, I'm like kind of a sensitive person. Can you tone it down a bit?
Yeah.
But what they don't realize is I'm a small business. It's called PR and marketing,
Yes.
not narcissist. I'm not going on my Instagram account and saying, oh, look at my new shoes, look at my new watch. People do that.
You're talking about your business. Yeah.
I'm not a vlogger. I'm talking about my work, my business.
But
Hey,
not just
nothing
your
wrong
work.
with vloggers.
Nothing. Absolutely. I mean, since a vlogger. Exactly. But
Some of my best friends are no.
No, but the thing is, like, I started vlogging to promote my business. I thought, like, how can I quickly reach a large audience of people who are like looking to visit Dubai, create content around
100%.
people who are looking to visit Dubai.
But
So
you
we started
create
creating.
content.
So we started
you're
creating
providing
content
value, not
about like
posting
best
pictures
places to visit in Dubai,
Yeah.
like how much does it cost to live in Dubai, like all those things targeted towards my target audience, and it worked. Like people started. Like we increased our website reach organically without even ranking on search, just because of the content out there, because it takes time to rank on search. It takes
Yeah.
ages.
Yeah.
So
But like Richard was saying, there is always kind of a little bit of a dark side to it, and
for sure.
and if you've been out there and if you are sensitive, you kind of just have to grow thick skin. And I always think back to Brené Brown. Like I love her books, and she talks
Yeah.
about it in Daring Greatly, and she says, you should really just care about the opinion of the 5 people that you respect and trust the most. So now when I get a negative comment or negative feedback, like for no reason, these are people that don't even know me, perhaps have made an assumption about me. I just think back and I think, actually, I really don't care about your opinion. Thank you.
Yeah. Haters gonna hate.
Yeah,
It's
haters gonna
oh
fine.
man, you should
It's
see
fine.
some of the comments I get on YouTube.
Taking shots like Patron
Taking shots like Patron,
to
like
continue the Taylor Swift
Taylor Swift
quotes.
says it best.
Yep.
I think.
Yeah.
So what is
She's got it
the
right.
the deal with the Rawi video for our listeners? I saw it, but
Yeah, so I was working on a furniture product, right, with a big Italian brand. And I thought, what better way to celebrate my country, my heritage, than go back and get the raw materials from a place like Dharavi. It has such negative connotations, but there's a plastic industry in Dharavi that recycles all the waste from Mumbai.
Wow.
And I thought, what a better way to start. So I
Yeah.
did just a research video, right? I went there, I looked at the leather manufacturing in Dharavi, I looked at the plastic waste recycling centers, and I just put a video out saying,
I thought it was a cool video, by the way. It was
Yeah.
like the first time I've seen you do like a vlog style video.
Yeah.
So maybe it was something unexpected for your audience.
maybe, but it was
But
so
what was the
funny.
feedback?
So the feedback was, how can you wear that dress and those sunglasses and walk around Dharavi? What do you know? And I'm like, actually, I'm 100% Maharashtrian. So I actually spoke to them in Marathi. They're like, they don't even understand the language you're speaking in. And you can't shoot in Dharavi without permission. So we've been very careful. And we've done it respectfully. Like, we're not showing anyone's homes. I was talking about the plastic industry. But you can see how silly people are. They didn't understand the content. They didn't understand what I was trying to do, but they were out there commenting.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but engage. But eventually I was like, stop.
Yeah.
Step back.
You're not my top 5 that I care about.
yeah.
Yeah,
Just walk away.
just in case you guys don't know what Dharavi is, it is one of the world's largest slums So it's unofficial housing in India. It's massive, but some of the biggest trades that happen, like leather, plastic recycling, bunch of other things come out of Dharavi. So I wouldn't be surprised if your Gucci wallet was probably made there.
Dharavi's got his own leather brand, and we have to celebrate things like that,
raise awareness about it. I mean, I think that people just take things out of context and have an opinion. Everyone has an opinion these days.
You were there literally sourcing materials for some of the world's greatest furniture manufacturers in Italy. You do a lot of work with Italian designers. And you're promoting these people, promoting these businesses, winning them contracts to supply factories in India. What's not to like? It's not cultural appropriation. It's sales and marketing.
No, I think I do think haters gonna hate, and at the end of the day, it's really helping your business grow and whatever. It's fine. You do, because I think, like I was saying earlier as well, you utilize all the resources that you have on hand. So whether it's media, whether it's your marketing skills, whether you're a great speaker, so you're speaking at events, I think it's really important to do that.
I think you should definitely leverage whatever is positive for you. If you're a bad public speaker, don't do it. But if you're a bad
public speaker,
she was a terrible public speaker 5 years ago.
That saved me.
I was just going to do a plug for it.
If you're a bad public speaker, get crowd pleaser.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't remember her being a bad public speaker, but
I still am. I think I'm very, very shy, and most people don't see that because they just see me out there, But it's taken a lot of coaching and training, and I work on it. Like with anything else, you want to get ripped, you go to the gym. You want to be a good public speaker, you
do lots of it.
And you practice. So speaking of crowd pleaser, that's your new book that's just come out a few months ago, right? 6 months or so?
Yeah, it came out in March at the Litfest, Emirates Litfest, which was beginning of March.
So you got 2 books now. I'm just curious, what was your motivation to write a book in the first place?
So the first book was 10 years ago. It came out, and it was called.
I remember when it came out. Yeah.
And it was about. It was came out the week that my son was born, so I can always remember when it came out.
Yeah.
And that was about the boom and bust of Dubai's real estate market. We've all been here through 2006, 7, and the boom times, and then the crash in 2007, 8, and 9. And it was about that. What's the difference between the companies that sank in that difficult time and the ones that swam? And the basic answer of the book is debt. The ones that had loads and loads of debt sank, and the ones that didn't have too much debt, companies like MR Properties, for example, did actually perfectly well during the downturn. So that was an important book as a business journalist to write. There was just a question that I wanted the answer to. Why are some companies blowing up and others okay?
Yeah.
The Crowd Pleaser book was slightly different, and I kind of started writing that by accident. It's a public speaking manual. And to give you the potted version, about 5 or 6 years ago, I was doing a lot of coaching and training in public speaking to various companies around, mainly Dubai, but the Gulf as well.
Mamta had designed the website and the business card. Do you not recall?
I did!
Oh my God.
For Talk Media.
Back we go. Talk Media.
Yes.
Talk Media,
God. Right.
You did, 10 or 12 years ago.
Yes. That was a long time ago.
Before Squarespace and things like that. Where you do it
exactly.
for $20. You needed a cool designer like you.
Yeah.
So I was doing a lot of public speaking training. And as part of that, I would teach them, a technique. For example, the Steve Jobs Twitter-friendly headline technique. Today, Apple reinvents the phone. It's a technique. It's well known in public speaking circles. It's called the Twitter-friendly headline. Summarize your speech in 140 character phrase.
Clickbait.
Yeah, exactly. All clickbait's in there. There's all these things are in that.
Yeah.
And so what I'd end up doing is to give my students or clients, because they're all from corporations, a kind of handout at the end of it. I'd write a 500-word summary of this. So I'd have the 500-word summary of the Steve Jobs Twitter-friendly headline. I'd have the 500-word summary of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream, lessons on rhetoric. I'd have the 500-word summary of how to structure a presentation using the Deca grid or the pyramid or something like that. And after about 2 or 3 years, this was a kind of Word document, a kind of crappy, ugly Word document, but there were maybe 30 of these things in it, these 500-word summaries with some little diagrams. And some of the students said, you know what, this is really good. This is actually more useful than your course. Why didn't you write a book about this? I thought, well, why not? If it's useful, then I will do, because I like these greatest hits books. I've got a lot in my library. The 50 philosophy ideas you need to know.
Yeah.
So you've got Plato in there and Karl
Yeah.
Marx, or the 50 psychology ideas you need to know, and it will be Sigmund Freud will be in there and so on. But there
Yeah.
wasn't one for public speaking. And I thought,
Right.
well, it would be useful to have one for public speaking, and I've already started writing it.
Yeah, half
And
the
that-
content is there.
Well, as it turns
No,
out,
no.
half the content wasn't there. So it took a
5
long
years.
time. It took 5 years. It took
Oh,
about 3 years
wow.
to research and write it, but then we designed it beautifully. And I don't have a copy with me here, but it is beautifully laid out and designed. And Pallavi actually design directed it.
Art direction. I didn't
Oh,
actually
amazing.
sit and do the graphics, but it was
We had two
Very
great
cool.
designers
two
working on
amazing
it.
graphic designers.
So it's beautifully illustrated, but that takes a lot of time, and it was
Yeah.
essentially self-published by me.
Okay.
So there's a lot of time. So there's caricatures, there's illustrations, there's diagrams, there's graphs, and it's a gorgeous looking thing. But that probably added a year and a half to the production schedule because we've all got day jobs as well.
Yeah.
So big
So-
shout out to Michelle Clements, one of the designers, and Kim Baroma, both
Okay.
based here in Dubai. Both
Amazing.
awesome people.
Cool.
Okay.
So do you
great.
think it's something that would be helpful for people looking to like pitch to investors and stuff, or is it more for like mass audiences?
No, it is, and pitching is part of it. I mean, the public speaking is a kind of catch-all phrase, isn't it? We think first and foremost of the keynote speech, and you're going to Jodhpur in India in a couple of days to give a keynote speech. But actually, a lot of what you do of public speaking is pitching to 3 or 4 people in a room.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I'm very good. Give me 1,000 people and lots of lights and a microphone, and I have no nerves.
Okay.
But give me a room full of 3 senior executives when I'm pitching with you for new business. I'm terrified.
and
But
I'm
that's
the opposite.
your natural habitat.
That's my sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
So I think like going back to structuring a pitch, right? And that's what I do for a living, I think.
Yeah.
You know, design is such a small part of what I do. Marketing and selling my designs,
Yeah.
convincing other people to buy into my story, into my idea for their vision is a huge part of what we do. So I think that book, not that book, Richard basically helped me structure how to pitch. Because everybody wants to hear a story. Think about how
Yeah.
we grow up.
Yeah.
You have a little child now. You read her a story every night.
Yeah.
That's how our brain kind of connects your story. So I can't just say, here's a beautiful design, take it or leave it. You know, it's like, this is your story.
What is the feeling behind it, or what's the
for
story?
Sure. No,
For sure.
people want to buy from people, and the only way you'll connect with someone if they'll share a little anecdote or if they'll share a story that just makes them more real, authentic. It's a personal experience. Then.
Yeah, I mean, like, it works the same way on YouTube as well. When you're doing a vlog, like, you could have the most beautiful like visuals, right?
Yeah.
Like, say, but like after a minute of beautiful visuals, nobody's gonna continue watching it,
Yeah.
right? There has to be
Content.
some kind of story element to it, or there has to be some kind of thought-provoking thing in it. Otherwise, nobody's gonna give you that attention, right? So I think it's kind of similar
Yeah.
in that way. Storytelling's always been important.
And so we use within Raw storytelling in 2 different ways, and you can explain what it is. One is we tell our own story, the story of the company. There's the local girl made good story. Pallavi was born and raised here in the UAE, not from a particularly wealthy family, studied at university, scholarship student, and now doing really, really well. The other story is the all-woman studio story. But it's not, that's the least important element of storytelling in the business. The most important bit of storytelling is design storytelling. Every design has to have a narrative. Rawi, the bookshop, the design is inspired by literary elements, and that is where storytelling comes to life in design, isn't it?
Oh yeah, like 100%. People are buying what their project is about, right? So it's about the philosophy of the project. Let's use Rawi as an example, right? It was a coffee shop, but it was also a retail store. And I started the design of that project with understanding how do people use books. You know, some people fold, like they dog ear the book, some people put a bookmark. I started studying the stitch on the spine of the book. And when you go to Al Rawi, which is in Sharjah, again, that's my neck of the hoods, you know, that's where I grew up, you'll see those references translated into a 3-dimensional space. So you'll see cut off elements that reference back to the dog earring, or you'll see like a stitch detail that's a partition between spaces. So I think, you know, we try and translate that feeling or that essence of a space 3-dimensionally.
That's awesome.
Just
Yeah, very
to
interesting.
clarify, Al Rawi means the one who tells a story
Yeah.
in Arabic. It's the Arabic word for storyteller.
Okay.
And Sharjah has been the literary hub of the GCC really for 30 years or so.
Yeah.
His Highness the ruler of Sharjah is a writer. He's a literary man. Sharjah Book Fair.
It's something that I went to as a child.
It's 30 years old, and they
Yeah.
wanted to create this cafe that wasn't just a cafe, that was going to be a hub for literary events. I've been to book launches there.
Is it a government space?
No,
It's a private
just
space.
it's private
owned,
yeah.
yeah.
It's Shuruk.
And you've won some awards for it.
We
as
did,
well.
yeah, and it's up for an international award, like in a month,
amazing.
in a couple of weeks' time. The
Amazing.
London Restaurant and Bar Design Awards, and Shababik, another restaurant we've designed, won the BBC award. So it's really interesting that these are like little spaces in the cultural capital, I think, of the UAE, which is Sharjah, that are making big waves internationally. Like Wallpaper magazine has featured them, Interior Design magazine in America has featured these spaces.
Very
It's
cool.
amazing, yeah.
So it's quite a nice pat on the back.
Yeah. So I wanted to check with you about this. Like, so you guys have won tons of awards, or at least it seems like from your social media.
Yeah.
But
We give ourselves awards every day. Well done, high five, here's an award.
but tell me
Was
something.
it what Woody Allen said? Everyone gets an award these days. World's greatest fascist dictator, Adolf Hitler. Congratulations.
No, but do you intentionally pursue it? Or do you
How
go
much of
out
an impact does it have on
and
your business?
make sure that you're a
Entering.
part of all these competitions or award ceremonies? And do you specifically do work that is you think is going to be award winning?
I think that's a great question, Sid, because I find that a lot of designers these days are designing for that Instagram moment to be published in a certain journal and to win an award. Okay?
Yeah.
When I first started out the company, I entered every single award because nobody knew us. Like, who's Pallavi Dean? Like, where did she come from? You know? So it was very important. It was a great marketing tool. And we were very fortunate to have won a couple of those early awards. And back then, I think I was looking for some kind of,
Validation.
external validation. But now that we've matured as a company and, we're 6 years into it, now we've picked up the international awards. We've been published internationally. We've won some local awards. And as Richard says, everybody's winning awards these days. I haven't seen a single firm that doesn't call itself award-winning firm. So I've actually intentionally taken that off some of our marketing and media because I just it's becoming a little bit oversaturated, that award-winning space.
Sure.
Now I think what we're focusing on, our design process is evidence-based. It's research-based. We have an in-house psychologist that we collaborate with.
Okay.
So, we've done that, been there, and I think it's very cyclical. We all have to go through that journey. But I feel in many ways we're over it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a good awards ceremony, I love dressing up for it, going up
So
on
you're not
stage.
dissing any award
No, please keep
committees
them
right
coming.
now.
but I think there's an interesting point to your question. It's, do we create our designs? Do you design something to be an award-winning design? No. You design an experience for the people who are going to use the space, the family in a home, the students in a school, the customers in a restaurant, the workers in an office. You don't design to win awards, but entering awards is a time-consuming business, and we spend a lot of time and energy. It does not happen, and you lose. I mean, what's the success rate? I don't know, 1 in 8,
5, I think.
something, 1 in 6 or something.
I mean, you
like
don't
that.
win everything. Like people don't see
sure.
the ones we don't win.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting because our clients range.
But you do put sorry to cut you off, but you do put time and energy
100%.
into
It's a business
I wouldn't say
development
promoting
tactic,
yourself,
no?
but what do you call it?
marketing
Canvassing?
our work. Yeah.
Yeah, marketing yourself to the award committee so
I mean,
that
these submissions are time-consuming.
Yeah.
But the proper awards, okay, there are some that are just Mickey Mouse, and you pay a couple of $1,000s and you win.
And
an
you
award.
win.
But the ones that matter,
Yeah.
and some of the local ones matter, and they have impartial judging. The ones that matter, they want to see all the photographs, but not just the photographs. They want what's the story, what was the brief,
How
what problem
did
were
you
you
get
solving.
a return on investment for your client? So there's so much more to design than just a pretty picture.
Yeah.
And I think we need to kind of steer clear of that. Like I said, I hate design just for design's sake. I sometimes see people who put up this beautiful minimal image and they're all celebrating minimalism now. Name one person who'd like to be in that space.
minimalism is trending right now.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, I listen to the Minimalist podcast as well, so that's how far it's gone. Yeah.
Which is wonderful, right?
Yeah.
But is it
Livable.
is it livable?
Definitely function over form for me,
100%.
Like I was telling someone the other day, like I love the Mini. For the longest time, it was in my dream car list. And then I sat inside a Mini. Of course, this was a little while ago. And the speedometer was in the middle of the car. And I was like, no. No, this does not make sense to me. It looks beautiful on the outside, not working for me on the
I
inside.
actually love the Mini.
You nearly bought one a
I
couple of
nearly
weeks
bought
ago.
one a couple of weeks ago just because it was so cute.
No, so they don't
changed
do
the
that
speedometer.
anymore.
They don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
But that was the best way that I could explain that. Yes, as
It
much
was,
as I love how things look, and I loved that it was a quirky brand, and I wanted to kind of be a part of that brand
Yes.
story as well. still, I was like, this is not going to be fun to try.
Mamta, it's like Sophia Webster's shoes.
Yeah.
I have 2 pairs.
Yeah.
I love them. I never wear them.
Yeah. You wear them for what ceremonies?
Just for the photo shoot.
For the photo shoot.
Because the what ceremonies go on for all night, right? So I'll be in my flip-flops by then.
The flats are hiding under the table.
I want to finish off with a question because normally I'm the one asking the questions. Maybe I don't know how much your listeners know about what you're doing in your entrepreneurial venture.
Yeah.
Can you give me and Pallavi, because we've been friends for decades, but we haven't caught up for quite a while.
Okay.
Can you give me the kind of 60 or 90 second version of your entrepreneurial
So
Yes.
Ajarkar is a car rental marketplace. So what we do is we tie up with small to medium-sized car rental companies, not the Hertz or the Avis, but the medium to small ones because they offer better rates and better selection of cars. So we have now we're like 100 car rental partners across Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Sharjah. So you can go online, reserve your car from them, get it delivered. It's a convenience thing and it's a choice thing, and you get better prices. That's what Ajarkar is.
Sounds awesome.
Yep. Yeah. So it's now been 3 years.
And we've been doing
almost?
it for about 3 years. Yeah.
I'm not going to launch into a full-on business breakfast interview now, but we will at some stage. We will.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
hopefully. Yeah.
It's been tough though. Talking about that, like, do you, being on the business breakfast show, you have access to a lot of businesses and things that are trending in business. Like, what do you think about the startup ecosystem in Dubai? Like, do you think it's on the way up, or do you think there's still a long way to go? Like, are you guys interviewing more startups now? Like, what's happening there?
I think we maybe reached peak startup about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
When
With the
Kareem was doing really, really well.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of really good startups. I mean, Kareem and Souk are the two that we think of as being the big successes. They had
Yes.
the big buyout by Amazon and Uber, respectively. But there are many, many others. I mean, I'm thinking of, I don't know, Zawiya back in the day.
Yeah.
More recently, things like Mum's World, things like Spree, the luxury closet. I mean, there are many. Angami's a really, really good one.
Yeah.
But our listeners are now a little bit tired of the plucky startup. And you
Okay.
mentioned the phrase entrepreneur. So yeah, if you've raised a few $1 million and you're bona fide and you've gone beyond just a business plan and some fools, friends and family startup capital, then people are interested.
Yeah,
If
sure.
you've shown some traction,
Yes.
not I have an idea, because everyone has an idea.
What if somebody has a crazy cool product? Like, does that work or no?
Honestly, not really.
Yeah.
To be honest,
Okay.
the wacky and the zany.
So you guys only do success stories, basically.
Essentially, because our audience is only really interested in success stories. I mean, are you going to interview people, some person who's got a good idea for a business? No,
Sometimes
you're not,
we
because
do that.
but your audience wants to listen to people who've been successful and
Who've
made.
been in the arena.
And
Yeah.
frankly,
Their hands
if you made a few
Yeah.
$1 million and you've got to have a bit of a track. Why are you going to listen to a
there
podcast about success unless that person has got a track record of actual success?
No, okay. So I wouldn't say they're unsuccessful. They're successful in some way. It doesn't necessarily have to be monetary. Like last episode we put out is this company called Brap, okay? And they're a social media for musicians, and musicians can collaborate over that app. So somebody can make a beat, and somebody else can make a guitar riff over it. Somebody else can rap over it across the world, and they don't make any money. They're not monetized as yet, but they have like 10,000 people who have downloaded the app, and they're doing
cool,
some
yeah.
cool technology.
Success story
That's
by any
success,
means.
exactly. There is
Yeah.
some measurable, tangible success.
Yeah.
It's not just an idea.
idea.
It's not just
Yeah,
an
yeah,
idea.
This be
It's
cool.
very good execution. It looks like Instagram. It's very cool.
I think the one thing that we both really strongly believe in, we really need to stop like this glorification of entrepreneurship.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
go to any book, you pick up a self-help book, or you go to any forum, believe in yourself, go for it, just do it. But you know what? Not everyone's cut out to be an entrepreneur. Like,
Yeah.
it's a hard slog.
Yeah.
Some of us are better suited to you're not cut out to be an entrepreneur full time.
No, I mean, Talk Media, the company back in the day, Mamta, when you were designing my website, didn't work. I mean, it didn't.
It wasn't a product
it
market
was
fit
fine.
at the time, or
it was a perfectly good product or service. I just haven't got that X factor. So I've got a full-time job now. I present the business breakfast. I'm an employee of Dubai Holding. I get a monthly salary, perks and benefits, all that kind of stuff. And I'm much better at that. Pallavi, on the other hand, has got that entrepreneurial thing going on, and you can do it.
Yeah, I have a reality distortion feel that I think most entrepreneurs need. But then it's great having to partner with someone like him who's so intelligent, because I'd say that's his superpower. It's not mine. Who's so intelligent and who has such an in-depth research, scientific process. So I think we balance each other. I'm like the doer, the executor, and he's like the strategist, the
book
thinker.
smarts and street smarts.
Book smarts and street smarts.
Yeah, that's a
Not
good
that
combo to
dumb
have.
either, you know?
Okay, I'm surprisingly, most of the people who we have on the show say that. Like, not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur. Nobody realizes how difficult it is to be an entrepreneur. I've experienced that firsthand.
Yeah.
Like, you have
it
huge
takes grit, and crazy tenacity.
You keep getting curveballs all the time. You have to firefight. You need to have a certain aptitude to be able to do that.
Reality distortion field.
Yeah, definitely.
You need to have you need to be, exactly.
100%,
Reality
because
distortion
there'll be people who'll come and say, "Can you do this?" My first answer is always yes. Richard will always look at me and be like, "What did you just commit to?"
No,
like,
same.
She's kind of like that.
Same. I always say I'll find an answer.
I'll find a way.
Because I wouldn't say that I'm the smartest person in the room, but I am very resourceful. I will find a way to
and
figure
ambitious
it out.
with her plans.
Yes.
Resourceful is so much more useful than smart.
Yeah,
That was
definitely.
the Tony Robbins quote when Tony Robbins was here. Did you guys go to Tony Robbins?
No, we
No.
didn't.
I mean, he's a
Missed it.
force of nature, self-help guru. He
Yeah.
says it's not about the resources that you have as an individual or a company. It's about the resourcefulness.
For sure. I've always, like, whenever I've managed people as well, that's the advice I give them, because I've taken on roles before I was ready for them and taken on challenges before I knew anything about them, because I always said, I'll figure it out. I'll make some calls. I'll go to Google.
Yeah.
I'll find a way,
I must give Mamta that. She's very resourceful.
Yeah. But I always say yes, and then I'm like, shit, how do I do this?
5-month-old baby. Whoa.
Yeah, 5-month-old baby, and I want to go to the gym, and I want to do the podcast. I don't want to do my business. No sleep. That's the answer.
Yeah, so I think we'll wind up there. And we usually ask everybody on the show, like, if they had any advice for anybody who's looking to get into this whole world of entrepreneurship. What would it be? Like, what is one or two pieces of advice that both of you could give? Like,
I mean, mine would be don't give up your day job.
Okay.
Unless you really think that you've got the right stuff, particularly if you've got dependents and people counting on you.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of kids, you've got kids as well.
Yeah.
And when I set up my business, it wasn't a particularly good or better idea. It made corporate videos. They were perfectly good, but it wasn't a great product or service that was truly unique or different or better. I haven't got that grit, that tenacity, that bloody-minded, sales-driven mentality that you need as an entrepreneur. So I'm much better with a day job. And honestly, you can live a happy, fulfilled life and get paid well and all of the things that you would want.
If you marry the right person.
Yeah.
So start with the side hustle, is it?
Started as a side hustle till it's a proven concept.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. No, sometimes you have to go all in.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to put it all on red. And I get that, but only put it all on red.
If you're
Before
sure.
you put it all on red, think about the consequences, think about yourself, think about the product and service.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's kind of like you have to be authentic. Okay. So you can't model yourself on somebody else's journey. So you can't be the next Steve Jobs and you can't be the next Ray Dalio, I don't know, or Warren Buffett, right?
Yeah.
It has to be what is authentic to you. And I remember, people always saying to me, my God, you're bossy. My God, you're like this. And I'm like, no, I'm assertive. I get things done. And I never molded myself because I was always the only woman in a construction site.
You were always bossy and
I was. It's actually a wonderful skill. It's a talent.
Yes.
I get stuff done.
Yeah.
And I remember people telling me,
I find it hard to do that. So yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I hate this because I think that when women are being assertive, they're called bossy.
But when men
But
are,
I've never heard
A man
someone
I
man
find it
being
hard to
called
be
bossy.
overly
call
assertive
leaders.
with
They
the
call
employees
leaders.
and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
but my thing would be don't mold yourself to someone else's notion of what a woman on a construction site should be like. I wear a pink hard hat because sometimes I want to embrace the inner femininity, and sometimes I wear high heels as well, to a construction site. I don't always have to be a man in a man's world, pretend to be a man in a man's world, but I will always just be myself. So you have to be authentic.
Okay, on that
That's very
awesome
good. Yeah.
piece of advice, I think we're going to wind up the show. We're going to leave links in the description to Roar. We'll also leave links to Richard's books. So if you guys want to buy it, is it available?
Yeah,
on
Amazon.ae.
Amazon.ae. Awesome. So anybody who wants to buy it can get it there. We'll definitely leave the link in the description as well as the social media handles and stuff if you guys want to reach out. This show is available on all the podcast platforms. So if you guys want to download it on Apple or Google, it's available everywhere. Please do leave us a review because that really helps us spread the word and get more people listening to the show. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you leave us a like and hit that subscribe button. Leave us a comment. We'll maybe pass on the comments to these guys and maybe
Only if
they'll...
they're nice.
Only if they're nice.
Leave us several comments after you watch the Rawi video. Positive ones, guys.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Keep
Hey, thanks, guys. That was awesome. Cheers.
yeah.
All right.
Keep on hustling.